Good morning. Thank you for joining the Center's Traffic Safety Program and our community education session today. And Gary Berkowitz from State Farm will talk about what is insurance.
Ini ko ada mana tini nyai teramu lesen ko mutula awe tambalo de blonyai awe ne keweda kle tatu da puklamuna ko pe center do tamas bako bakhe putri pa weda pu mana do tini nyai awe kite baka weda do tasa putale atani tesi tani ble tirpa minno kani mono manno dile do tra Gary dunia awe kite pya weda baka do ta uko insurance agi klo mana.
All right. Well, thank you for giving us this opportunity today. I'm Gary Berkowitz, and I've been a State Farm agent for 5 years.
Awe terane siblu tuku ade le awe hiwe o akwe yata ninyai mono terane awe marape State Farm ne uweda yenili no.
I am also a native of Utica. I grew up off of Higbee Road, and I'm still there every couple weeks visiting my family.
Awe terane awe o upleweda pe awe Utica lo mono ake sikone awe le ki hawe dale hipu hopu o sikolomo no.
I'm going to give a moment for Shannon, who's working with me, and Shannon Williams, who also works for State Farm, to introduce herself now.
Awe edo dutenya awe datramu shene sikomo no awe ne sikone awe marape but State Farm sikolom.
Good morning. I'm Shannon Williams, and I also live in Utica, so you have a local representative here.
Awe tramu mine no Shannon William no awe ne sikone local war pe Utica awe kasadaga sikolom no.
I've worked for State Farm for 22 years, and it's my pleasure to be with you this morning.
Awe marape Stefane o kisi kiniri do awe tninyai ne atakudu male pag matkuda siko owo sikomo no.
So we're going to cover a few topics today. Why do you need insurance? What is insurance? What is a policy? And auto insurance specifically.
Tninyai ne pag malut ko weda takuto blue kamano ke weda ne bamnu ko lu ba weda insurance le insurance ne me menu le do policy tatu ne me menu le do awen da ka insurance ne menu le mano.
So there's just some basic reasons why you need auto insurance or any kind of insurance. If you own a home, your lender requires it. The same if you have a loan on an automobile, your lender requires insurance as well.
Pay ne no awe bamunu ko insurance ne luba weda le mano insurance kai mi ne luba weda le ne tagita kluta no mano ado ne me weda do hine mono ne hine awe luba weda insurance sikolo mano.
And as you heard earlier, New York State requires auto insurance.
Pay ne tinya weda lo pa New York awe korine luba weda ka sikone ka ba weda do insurance lo mano.
And there's some serious risks involved with not having insurance. If you're in an auto accident, you can be sued and you can be ruined financially.
Pay no awe ta ko ta ke uro te mi mo no adone insurance made over ne no bamnukule ne mi no ka do kami mat tai da te mi o ne no awe kwa awe olona te kwa tonale ruth mo no do te ka di banda klun se tonosi kone kaba haweda ko usikolom.
And also, I mean, I know you all are young teenagers, but if you pass away unexpectedly, or one of your parents pass away unexpectedly, that loss of income can really make your family suffer without a way to pay your bills.
Ako ni mo no ado nemi lepukui weda mono na tat mumilo shu weda tatu klame ge mono ako ne na hipu ko pone no awe kikilo ni na le no woni mono awe tagi ko ke hero ko uti mono.
Okay. So quite simply, what is insurance? Sorry, go ahead.
Insurance a community me menu le mono.
And Gary, I'm going to take this slide.
Okay, go ahead.
So this is the transfer of financial risk from you to an insurance company. And basically what that means is if you make your payments every month for your insurance, if you have an accident, your insurance company will help you pay for that damage that was caused.
Pay ne do ne ke wada insurance ne no ke wada na close ta ko da khele ke ro ta ke te len o ne no ne he lo su awen insurance company mo no ado kon la de ne he wada na company insurance company ko la de len ka insurance award do pin ne ta ko da ke na ka mi bat tai da lo ne do ne na insurance do ne ken lo ni na mo no.
So I'll give it back to you, Gary.
All right. So what is a policy? Essentially, it's a contract between an individual and an insurance company that provides the terms of the insurance.
Policy datu ne me menu le no policy datu ne anu ne pay ne awete papano adi to do li lelep awete pano ka sataga do company insurance company awete malot elosa li le kama no.
In an insurance term, it's called premium, but really what it is money paid to the insurance company to cover the policy.
Awe pay no ne poko wenda le premium no akobion do ne awe city pale ne hilo le ne insurance company do ne awe te ka lonina tagi taklu uloti lo semo no.
On a car policy, there can be a deductible, which is an amount paid by you as the owner of the policy to cover an initial portion of a loss caused by an accident.
Pay do ne awe ne make it do awe da kutwe len nigete mo no pan turon ni we da ti mo no ado awe akoti da badu bati tidpa ni awe ki hiweda lo do maka ne insurance policy hiweda ni awe ti ko turo weda do dale able sen ni awe ti awe ke weda detectable mo no le kutwe te ka ne turo weda ti mo no.
Yeah, just as an example, if you have coverage for if your car is hit by hail or a deer, there's typically a deductible of either $500 or $1,000 to which would be what you would pay towards the complete repairs of your car by an auto shop.
Akobion ni adon na kami temale ta humi gini mo no awe membo ka ni awe nagba hiweda yepo tule temerti mo no ta tidpa ni awe nagba hiweda le pen nembo ka ta lo ni mo no ta tidpa ni tudo weda ti chani mo.
So we're going to next talk about what is auto insurance. And the first thing we're going to talk about is some interesting facts about auto insurance. So Gary, do you want to move to the next slide? Thank you. All right. So we're going to talk about some interesting facts about auto insurance.
Okay, ne tet ko weda baka do ka insurance mo no. Tole insurance le law sewisan do mat ti palo mo no.
So in the United States in 2018, there were over 12 million accidents.
Awe pe kikito te si ho pe America ni mo no. Awe kamba do matita ni oweda te si ki kwe ani di te si ki.
And in 2019, there were over 36,000 fatal or deadly traffic accidents.
Pekito te si kwine no awe ta badu matile dudu mumu pati ani onu ne no owe da tekla do hugato no.
In 2014 in New York State, there was almost 300,000 accidents.
Awe pe kikito te si lui ne no le New York state bu ne lo no owe da book owe da le te kwenya no te lo.
And in Gary's office, he has an average of 3 auto claims per week. So 3 accidents where his customers contact him and say, "We had a car crash, can you help?"
Awe pay no ne le per when de pusi ko ne no tenui ne awe ka bat tai da ko we da te kam no pa ko we da le awe se o lo du te we da le he ya du kat bat tai da le wita su he ma se pu mo no.
Okay. So Gary, can you move to the next slide?
So I'm going to just talk about something that you might surprise you about an auto claim for just a minute.
Sure.
So, here's a claim we had last winter. We had a customer call us who slid into the guardrail on the side of the highway through Interstate 90.
Pay du ne awe tagi ke tho ta u tho kam no pa pa pui da bu le pu u de ka ni mo no awe he tep ya we da mo no ko we da fu mo no awe ko we da le highway a clear ka pa ni mo no de da.
And they were billed by the New York State Highway Authority $18,000 to repair the guardrail that caused by their car.
Awe penny ne no awe New York State Highway awe pa muda u te pane lo we da awe te si mo no awe te la do home.
So, but they didn't pay that bill. State Farm paid that bill for them to New York State because they had insurance.
Koplo le awe te uwe da insurance le pa State Farm a hone no si de kala awe te ka ba hi we da ni awe te ba hi le ba do pa company ni lo ni we da le awe te wo su pa New York State mo no.
So there are 4 types of coverage. The
Pay-
first type of coverage is liability insurance.
Pay andu ne baka do insurance ne uwe da lui ka mo no da da kani pa ko we da le liability mo no.
There is medical payment insurance.
Le kiri ka andu ne baka we da do kiti ka to ka pa hi lo ni we da mo no.
Underinsured and uninsured motorist insurance.
Le kiri ka ne baka do wale no sakit di pa awe insurance mo no.
And then finally, there's physical damage insurance, and there are 2 parts to that. There's comprehensive and collision.
Pay andu le kiri ka andu ne mu pa atam pa ka nyom mu pa atam bandu ba ti insurance mo no. Penny andu ne uwe da ki ka mo no ta ka ne comprehensive ta ka ne collision mo no.
So we're going to talk more deeply about each type of these coverages, and Gary's going to start talking through the liability insurance.
Tara Gary ka tip da ba ka we da liability o mo no.
Liability insurance covers injuries or damage caused to other people or their property when you are the driver and responsible.
Liability o ko byon no pay awe na le time ba ka le pa te ga me ye do ka me ye ne no mi ke ro ta bandu ba ti ne awe te hiloni we da no.
And there's 2 types of liability that occur from owning and operating a car.
Pay na mi awe na ka me o do na mi no we da ka ne no pini ne awe na mi tu we da liability ne we da ki ka mo no.
Yeah. So there's bodily injury, which is a driver or the car owner is held legally responsible for injuries suffered by another person.
Ako wa ko da le bodily injury no ke da pa no ka pu mi ge pa le ka ka sa mi ge ne no awe te ne muda o we da le awe te ka ba awe te pa aga ga mi he bandu ba ti awe te ni mo no.
So it's not just things like hospital bills. If somebody is hurt in an accident and is out of work for 5 or 6 months, you would also be responsible for their loss of income from their job.
Awe ado da sahi bulet ka di ba mo no ado pataga ne mille ta matati ba ye la kula ni sikone awe ada si henu bandu ni sikone namuna nda o sikole nang ballo ni awe ti mo no.
And the second is property damage. That's when a driver is held responsible for damaging another person's property. That could be their car, or as I said just before, an example of hitting a guardrail on a highway.
Awe ki karakan du ne ke weda stasulo koko atambadu bati mono we pole no ka mege ka sa mege ne amuda weda le awete ka ban lo ni weda le pa bandu bati da ga won mono ado ka ti weda sikolo minima kone le highway ka pane awan pa du do hati de pa ne mile tai ba sikone wen man lo ni.
So we talked a little bit about this on the other page, but liability protects you from lawsuits, medical, funeral expenses for somebody else, car repair or replacement.
Pay andu ne we insurance liability insurance awen lo ni na manule ne no ado pa me hes we mit na le route pa me hes na tian sikone ne tatir pa ne we te hini mo no do le kir kan ne pa memba to we da dasahi ne dasahi abu le ti pa do me ke ro ta ti ta pa sikone we te kan lo ni we na de ta tati amu poe ti pa wo do nemimba boka sikone do memba penu aro sikone no we te boni we da sikolo no.
Again, these are all expenses you would pay to the other people in the other car if you're responsible for the accident.
Tati de pa ine no awe nagba nemin tai ba ka tablo la ni nagba hiwe da no abu le ti.
So I'm going to just talk about what the limits for liability can mean on your insurance policy.
Awe pay ne le pa insurance a policy apune no atapa pa no ha umunule ti pa ne we ke tep ya we da no.
So typically you'll see on a policy something like 25, 50, 10.
Pay ne awe te ba te negative da kisi e yesi te simo no. We da temu.
So this equals, that's actually equals multiples of 1,000. So that 25 equals 25,000, 50 equals 50,000, 10 equals $10,000 of coverage.
Okay, no ne opinion ne kisi ne di tolosa do kikla yema do yesion ne di tolosa do yekla do tesion ne di tolosa lo tekla.
So that 25 or 25,000 is the most that a company will pay for any one person's bodily injury losses from an accident.
Ado kisi ye kikla yema do ne keweda kwa insurance company ar ke wete hini weda mono pe pa memba do bat kwa nyota ga memba bado bati weda do le ta bado bati te blonya.
I'll just say these are the state minimum limits, this 25, 50, 10. You can, of course, buy higher limits of protection to better protect yourself from lawsuits and other things.
Do ta kayo do ne do awesi pap no ha no basana kini ne me edo weda le ta do te de le buple do aro ne do ne temu no da hi aroti.
So the second part of this, we talked about the 25,000. Now we're going to talk about the $50,000 limit.
Kisi ye kikla yema ta pap no ne pete weda wile akene pekele weda su ye kala ta pap no.
So that 50,000 limit is the most that an insurance company would pay to everybody in the other car to cover their loss of income, hospital expenses, regardless of how much it actually costs. So go ahead.
Ye kala do ne ke weda akete le awete company ne ke hil lo ni weda le pa bandu bati ti pa awoma no.
So if the injuries, the expenses to the people in the other car are more than that $50,000 limit, that has to be paid by you or the owner of the policy out of your pocket.
Pe do ne no ta le bule se ta bandu bati me tele basana kine wete ki weda ye kala lo.
That's why understanding these limits of insurance and what you're buying is so important to educate yourself.
Basana kini do ado me ane di ye kala do ne awe te ki hilo da ye kala do me ane di le oti ti pan do ne awe pa ka ba hi ni na no na min ba do ba ti ne do min ba ko ne na ka ba hi awe te na me le ba do ba ti awe te no ako ne a read do ma le na ka ba ti nya we da pele policy pele ta kan bui we da le no
So the 10 equals 10,000. That's the per accident property damage limit for to pay for the other car, other damage to other things like guardrails if you're responsible for the accident.
pay do ne te ka la ta ka lao do ne ke we da awe ba ka da do ta sulo ko da bandu ba ti te pam no me hawon ne awe te ki hi ni we da che cha ni mo no
As I said, these are the state minimum limits, this 25, 50, 10.
Dar kai ni anu ke we da pa New York State pa pa no ha ni mo no astra ke te ne awe te ka ba hi we da ki la ye ma ye ka la do te ka la
It's always your choice, of course, to decide what kind of liability limits you choose to buy.
Ako ne pen le pui da insurance ka ni mo no ne e do le pele te ka le ki la ye ma ye ka la min ma ne te ka la lo no ta ka ne ta pa no ne ta hu thalo mo no
But the fact is, if you're responsible for an accident, and let's say you hit a car and responsible for the accident, and that car is a 2020 Honda Civic.
do mo no awe ne le tai ba po ka ko lo do ne o we da do awe te ka la lo mo no ta pa ne o da ka lo do akao do ne ke o da ki to ki si Honda mo no
So if you hit that car and it's totaled, that cannot be repaired, you have $10,000 on insurance to replace a $25,000 car.
ako ne ado akara ko ne hawe da le se do mod ni le ba ko ne no awe insurance ne lo ni na te we da ta ka la lo mo no
And the truth is that $15,000 that you need to totally replace that car is going to come out of your bank account, or your wages will be garnished to pay for it.
ako ne o te we da ta ka la ye mo do ne ka ba hi we da le ne bank ka pu men ma ko ne le na abu le pu ne ba hi o we da cha ni mo no
Thanks, Gary. So moving from liability, we're going to talk about medical payment insurance now.
pa le we da pa ka pa te pya we da ka ta gi ta lu wi le ke no pa ke le we da le ta sa hi abu le te pa mo no
So what is medical payment insurance? And what it is, it covers injuries that are sustained by the driver of the insured vehicle or any passenger, regardless of fault.
awe ta insurance ta kai do du ne hi lo ni we da abu le te pa le awe mdaga ata ka ma mi ge ni awe mit tai bat bla la ni no awe te lo ni we da ni mo
It also covers insured family members that are injured as a passenger in a car or even injured while on foot or bicycle.
adu ta kai du ne no ne me pwe ne no ke we da ne me ke we da hi po ko po ne mo no ne me no po we da do po we da pa ka ki me ge do na ha we da le ko me ge ne no we da li yo me ge kha ne mi ba du ba ti ne we ti lo ni we da
So this insurance part pays for your hospital and your medical bills. And since New York is a no-fault state, what that means is your insurance pays your medical bills.
pay do du ne no awe lo ni we da ne da sa ye bu le me ge da ka ti ka to abu le ti pa de we ti lo na ke le lo do pa New York State ne pa ko da le no fault state mo no ko bi nyon du ne awe ne insurance ne company ne lo ni we da ti pa ke lo mo no
All right. So another part of your auto insurance is uninsured, underinsured motorist insurance.
le ki ka du ne pa ko we da le awe insurance to ba do awe insurance astra ti pa pa no da pu ti pa insurance mo no pa ko we da
So why would you need this? Well, this is going to cover injury or damage to the driver, passengers, or the vehicle caused by a driver who does not have enough insurance.
Terkait redo bamnukulene no ado aweta bado batimike rosa puatagale insurance de let pueba tagane no mi taimane no awe puano kapo mege puano po kimege do kamege ne no awete takota bado batime one awete loniwe.
So here are some examples of why you might need this. For example, a hit and run accident where there's no driver identified.
Ado pe kete tau ta kama no ado pa hetai na lo do awete khiwe dan ni no do pa no ka ti pa madagale ni ni tinya ba kene kane.
Or another example is an accident with an uninsured driver, someone who doesn't have any insurance at all.
Lekhi kha ta uta du ne netai da kama no basna kene pa he lo ni ga du ne insurance mit over ni no.
Or you could have an accident with someone who has insurance, but it's not enough to cover the loss, like the example that Gary gave with the Honda Civic.
Pe no no ne no ado pa daga ne au he tai na insurance ne ka lo ni na ne te le po ba makatra Gary te to lo to ni lo no maka Honda Civic te kani mo no awe he akite ne do tapa no da no.
And here's a fun fact. 6% of New York State residents are driving illegally without auto insurance.
Pene awe tagitak lo le amito o de kama no pa New York State apa pa o taputi pane no hum lagi yani awe ti nowe daka le awe aka insurance to ba awe ti nowe daka mo no ke we da taba pomi dot te sama no.
All right, here's a very tragic example of when these types of coverages come into play. And so this is a picture of a teen who was killed due to a driver who was driving while intoxicated, who did not have a license and no insurance.
Pene ne awe ta ke rota o de mi mo no pene ke da awe ta wone ke da ta sapu de khale tegale pa tai ba ka do ti we da mo no wa tai ba taga ne do ne awe o ti muye do ala si do e ba do aka si ko ne insurance do e ba.
So Gary, I know that you had some personal connection here. Do you want to go ahead and give some more detail on this accident?
Sure. I actually know and knew these people. The young lady on the right went to college with my daughter.
Awe tra akisada wen atinya we da pa ki ai mo no awe pu ta mu pu tegale o we da le a thwe de pa ne ke we da thochu de pu ko do pu mu lo mo.
So the reason uninsured insurance is so important is, as Shannon mentioned, this driver had no insurance.
Maka awe ta gi ta klo de khale pa le de hi ma do insurance ban te pa a won ne no na mi pui pa ha insurance ta khai ne no a ri do we da ni chai ta gi ta klo chai a ho lo mo no.
Fortunately, the young man who died had a good level of uninsured motorist insurance on his auto policy.
Put ta ga le pa tai ba do ti ga du ne no awe insurance ko ne awe apato ai mo no.
So that insurance on his car was used to pay for his funeral and all the medical expenses for his girlfriend while she was in the hospital and going through physical therapy for months.
Awe a hon ne no pe we ti kha ne no maka awe ma pa ha we da insurance ko ne no awe atati ta pa amu apwe no awe sikon ne no awe pa insurance lo ni ye do ta ka di ba puta mu purga no a girlfriend ga sikon ne no pa lo ni we da le ta sa hi abu le me ge awe ba le we da therapy me ge ne pa lo ni we da abu le khele lo no.
And by the way, this young lady just graduated with a doctoral degree from pharmacy school last year and has gone on to work in the pharmacy field.
Awe puta mu purigane no le apu pe ni ni awe pro we da le katitara align mo no le pharmacy te ka pa mo no aku ne awe saron nulo da mali mo no.
So this is a driving while intoxicated story too. There was a young refugee teen, probably 18, 19 years old, who had been drinking alcohol and driving. He had a 15-year-old in the car with him, and the car crashed. He came to see me after he got out of jail. He had been in jail for over a year, which was a felony. And it's a big crime. So he was charged with what's called Leandra's Law, but he shared with me that he had to pay for, he said, oh, I have to pay for everything. I had to pay for the girl's hospitalization. He had to pay for his own doctor bills. He had to pay for the city to clean up the mess. He had to had to pay and pay and pay. So I'm assuming that's in his judgment against him, and that he probably didn't have insurance either. So it was a big problem, and he was facing immigration issues because of that, because it was a crime.
Yeah, that's just awful. I
Yeah.
feel sorry for everybody in that case.
Yes. So better not to let that happen in the first place.
Ramu listen sikone we apu ata kero ta udemi mono awe tasapurga hele o mono awe tepya we da taita ko mono tasapurga ni atako we da sikone to sikwini lo peno kara khane no insurance to yima do awe o muti do awe no ka we da do le ka pu sikone pa we da puta mu putaka te si yeni mono pe awe ka tai lo ta khane no awe malo we da le hu pu tenim le mono lo takari ba awe bahi we da abu le kele kesilo no puta mu pura ba thoda sahi mege awe ba le city ka ba ma plo we da ka she mi ne bahi we da kele lo do aku ne no awe tekadi ba ke ne no ba ka we da do awe da ota le ka ba he o we da tiko ka ye da ota mo no immigrant ata ko da ke si ko ne ke ni o we da.
I have a brother, Lisanne, that always jokes with me. He says, insurance is the bill I hate to pay the most each month, but I absolutely have to pay it because it's so necessary.
Awe tera kiri jo udah kamu ada udah ide do he insurance awe kola di mana basana kini yang bahi udah si kolom.
Comprehensive includes all physical damage losses, except collision and other deductibles. And these are things I would just term as things that are just totally out of your control.
Awe comprehensive akopinyon din kepahuwe dado mubwa tabando bachi kesilom no basana kini tepahuwe dado ta taibaleka do le aga awe tabando bachi aga no awe peyo du ne mi bando we dane du ne peteo dati we dale talena o tetiba tetukla kero sa di pa akane we te hit loni we na no.
So some examples of that might be, especially up here in upstate New York, a deer hits your car.
Awe arkini lepa upstate awe New York ni ondini arkini kero we dane no tahu tailo da mono tailo da leka.
A hailstorm or a truck in front of you throws a rock at your window and breaks it.
Awe dito do tamu ko kli lo to wo tegi ba do bando nakami do takari ba le pono karga le nakami nya regani no mi kui we da le do mi he bando le nakami gene.
So these are cases that again are totally out of your control. And if you ever wonder how something like this affects your insurance,
Tadi depan ni no na peweda menuma teti ba no do keto sa weda ti weda lo no aku ne na ka sukmu weda lo tagi taklu ti depan ni batlo sa do ye insurance te dile mo no.
These kind of accidents do not affect your insurance. It's not going to increase your insurance cost when you renew because they're simply out of your control.
Awe tadi depan ni mikir hota ni no na insurance abu lesi kone ta aro iba no ba mulu hule ni tadi depan ni na awe Pơ weda ti ba mo no.
So I have a question.
Sure.
If someone left their car running and left the keys in the car and ran into their house quick and came out and then the car was gone, somebody stole it, would insurance cover it?
Yes, it's stolen.
It's stolen even though the car was running and it was open and it was unlocked.
It was stolen.
It
Yeah.
was stolen. So if they have comprehensive on the car, then it would be covered.
Yes.
Ken namu listen ti kwa wena mo no. Ado kar khui do nu ne pwa nu ro se no pwa pe lo treba pwa khat ti lo treba do awe kin nu lo ne hipu chopo do heki tharo lo kar ole ba no. Awe thai ke do da mi o ta kha ne no pe mi o weda do insurance le comprehensive ne no awe pa insurance ke lo ni we ke lo mo no.
That's a great question. Thank you.
W lo mo no. Ta ti kwa ku.
Okay, so now the other side of that is the collision coverage, and this is going to cover your car anytime it hits another object. It could be a car, it could be a tree, it could have gone through a rollover, and this is going to be paid regardless of fault.
Pay ni adu ne no kar pa ko weda le collision wen mo no. Kar khui ne ado mit tai lo sa le collision community tai lo da te mu mo no. Mit ne ka ne mit tai lo da le weta putali aga ado kar mi ye awe te mu me ye no ta khai ne mit tai lo da ne no na insurance me o le ba ka do collision ne no awe ti lo ni weda kelo mo no ne ta ka ma mi te mi weda ne ta ka ma mi.
All right. And there's other protection for your car that is truly optional.
Le aga ta do da aga se ko ni o weda lo mo no ta kan yo do ne ke weda ta ku thlo mo no.
You can get towing coverage to pay the cost of having your car towed somewhere to have it fixed.
Pa ko weda le to coverage on do ne no ado pa mi hembat tri weda na ka do ne no awe pa insurance law ni na mo no.
You can also get a rental car paid for or partially paid for when your car is being repaired after an accident or if it's stolen.
Le ki ka do ne no pa ko weda le na me le do le weda pa kar ko do me ba do weda me ge na ma tai weda me ge no pa me he hu weda me ge ne awe dito do insurance ka law ni wo.
I'll just add that quite typically, most insurance companies only pay part of that rental car cost back to you.
Do ke weda arkio do nyonu ne do ne insurance a company ne ke he law ni weda to no lo mo no.
An example might be, I'm going to make up an example. A rental car costs $20 a day. The insurance company would typically pay 16 of that $20 and you would pay the other $4 cost.
Ado mo no tra te da awe ka ma te pya weda ado ta kan yon ne ado ne le nga ka weda no ne do le weda pa ka ne te ni ne kisi no basna ke ne insurance ne ba te ka lo ni weda te si hu ba lo do o te li ba do ne ba lo ka ki ne sa.
Okay, so now let's talk a little bit about what influences your insurance rate or how much you pay.
Awe ba munu ko ne ba hi weda te tele do ne insurance ne a ba munu ko ale Australia ne no awe ke te pya weda mo no ta ki ta klo de.
So one thing that is considered is your age. Anyone under the age of 25 is going to pay more premium or their bill will be higher.
Akobinyon din ne no pale atani strane di kisi yani apply ne awe te ba hi weda awe insurance amo no de la ni.
And that's because the incidence of accidents is higher when you're under the age of 25.
Bamnu kule ne no nathani awe strane di kisi yani apply ne no awe dito dota ba do matile ka te pa ka tai lo ta arke ne no ke ro ta amla ke a ko ne no.
Another factor is vehicle use. The higher mileage you drive, over 7,500 miles a year, the more chance you have to get into an accident. So your rates will be higher the more you drive.
လက်ခိတခါဒုနေနမေနောကအလီနေနော်အခေါ်ပြညနေဒါနကဘာဟီဝဲဒါ insurance အလီလေမနော်အခုနေတနည်းနေမေအနေဒီနွီကထိုးရမနေနော်နွီကထိုးရပေါ်နေနော်အဝဲ insurance အလုံးမနော်
There are some other things that influence your rates or how much you pay, like your driving record. If you are a safe driver, you pay less money for insurance.
အဝဲလက်ခိတခါဒုနေဒါနောကတာကွဲနော်ဒီဖာမနော်အဒိုနမေနော်ဝဲဒါကပူဖလေအဒိုနေ insurance နဲ့ရှာဝဲဒါ
If you have traffic tickets, speeding tickets, accidents, those things will raise your insurance rates.
အဝဲအဒိုနမေဒိုနေဝဲဒါကာ ticket ဒီဖာမနော် the speeding ticket မေဂဲ traffic ticket မေဂဲနေနော် accident မေဂဲနေမေအိုတာတာကွဲနော်ဒီဖာနေနာ insurance ကအာမနော်
Another factor is the age and type of vehicle. So newer, more expensive, higher repair cost vehicles have higher rates. So like a Tesla would be expensive to insure.
အဒိုအဝဲကာအသနီဒေါ်ကာတခုဤအကလူစီကောနေဘတ်ဘတ်ထွေဝဒါဒေါ်ပ insurance စီကောလမနော်အဒိုကာနီအဒူဒိုမီတောဒိုမေအပွေဒိုအခါပညောဒူနေဒီတော့ကဘောဝနီဒူနေအပွေကဒူမနော်အခုနေနေမဟီဝဲဒါအပွေအားစီကောလမနော် insurance ကိုစီကောနေကအမနော်အဒို Tesla နေနမင်နော်ဝဲဒါနေ insurance အပွေကအမနော်
Also, frequently stolen vehicles have higher rates.
လက်ခိတခါဒူနေနော်ကာလေပွားခူအညောတိတဖာဒူနေနော်အဝဲinsurance ကိုနေအပတ်ဘာဟီအိုင်မနော်
Because I was curious, I wanted to find out what are the top 3 stolen vehicle types in New York State. So if you want to avoid paying higher rates, do not get a Honda Accord, Toyota Camry, or a Honda Civic. Those are the top 3 that are stolen in New York State.
လက်ခိတခါအဝဲတဲဒါအဒိုစတင်ညမနော်ကာလေပွားခူညောနူနေမေဝဲဒါမနူလဲနော်တော့အဝဲခုတင်ညောင်းနေကေဝဒါတဲ့ New York State နေကာလေခူညောနေနော်ကေဝဒါနော်ဒီမတိုနော်မနော် with us limited dollar ပွားဟဲခုနီနကဝနေဒါသခိုင်နေဘာဟီဝနော်တဲခါနေကေဝဒါ Honda Accord မနော်တော့ခိခါတခါနေToyota မနော်တော့သခါတခါနေကေဝဒါHonda Civic မနော်ဒါသခုနေပွားခုအားကတော်မနော်
I learned something new, and I didn't know that.
I read this and I was like, I have to find out what cars should I avoid. All right, well, there are other influences as well. We can keep moving to the next slide. It looks at your place of residence. So it depends on the state where you live. If you live in a rural area where there aren't many people, your rates are going to be lower than someone who lives inside of a big city where there are tons of people and drivers. And that just is based on the likelihood of you getting into an accident.
ဖေးနော်ဒူနေအိုဆိုတာလော်စီကောနေကေဝဒါဘတ်ထွေလော်တာတော့နေ insurance ဤလောမနော်ဒီမဟိချလဲနေနော်မမလူခုလဲနေအဒိုနမေအိုဝဲဒါတာလော်လဲပွားကညောတိုအာဘာနေနော်နေ insurance နေအပွေကလောမနော်ဒေါ်နမေအိုဝဲဒါလဲပွားကညောအိုအာလဲဒီတော့ဝေဒိုဝေထောတိတဖာဒီနေ insurance ကောနေကအောင်မနော်မမလူခုလဲနေတာကောတာခဲတာဘဒုံဘာတိကေရောတာနေအမလာကရအောင်ခုမနော်
One last factor there also is your weather. You would say that it is more likely that people who live where there's snow might get into accidents as opposed to someone who lives in Hawaii.
အခုနေနော်လက်ခိတခါနေမူခုကလီသောဝတာအိုတာမေဂင်းနေမထွဲလောတာလောမနော်အဒိုပွက်ဖေတာလောတာကလဲလဲမူခုကလီသောဝမီတကြီးမနေနော်ကinsurance ကအနေဒီပွက်လောအိုဝဲတာတော့ Hawaii မနော်
The number of drivers on a policy can increase the actual cost.
Ako ne pwale no weda ka tegale policy apoko ne upwegale ne dot ni batelo tando pwale kabahi weda insurance to tell it sikolomno.
Just an interesting thing to know for this audience especially is that a driver under the age of 25 costs less to be added to his or her parents' policy than to purchase a separate policy.
Ado put tala kisi yang yusu apalat ni no aweti puweda tepu ko do amu pa hati mo no do me awe me puweda alo loso so do ne awe atani insurance ni ka arche po mo no.
One thing you can do to reduce your insurance is take a driver education class and get a certificate that you finished it.
Leki ka dito na hiweda shose award do ne no nagba toweda driver da tulu da kama no lo do na me do ne weda certificate li uta da ka do ne awe tiki hina shose se mo.
So you can take that certificate and give it to your insurance company, and they will give you that discount.
Awe ako ne na me le so weda awe li uta certificate kala na insurance alo do ne awe tika hilonad shose mo no.
You can also get a discount by providing a copy of your good school grades to your insurance company.
Leki ka do ne no awe na ne me ke da chupula agiri ga se ko ne no ne me le pya we da na ta na li utale na jota kwe no ti pa ne no awe ti shol no ni we da si ko lo.
And many companies provide an additional discount if you have 2 or more cars on the same policy.
Awe company ada ke ne awe te hello we da discount ta kan yo do ne ke da na ka ne me o do kiko do su apoko ne awe te masalo ne we da city si ko.
And if you have some kind of anti-theft device built into the car to prevent stealing, that can also provide a discount.
Do le ka ne me panulo we da pa ko we da le di te do pa he hood ni ba ni mo no awe assistance ka si ko ne me panulo ni le na ka pu si ko ne pa hilo ni na discount si ko.
Another common discount is if you have an automobile and home insurance or an automobile and a renter's insurance policy in the same company, you will get a discount.
Leki ka do ne no ado le company te pla bu lo no we na do insurance agati pa no ado na kami na himi ne no awe te masalo ni na ti we da si ko.
And many companies offer long-time loyal customers discounts for staying with the same company.
Do ada ke company ada ke ne awe te hiloni we da po he mas po he puira pula auto lo do awe te ni mi ni no awe te hilo ni we da discount si ko.
So this is we're coming to the end. Here's some next steps to think about.
Okay ne paga tu na le ka telo no da kai no ni tapato aga da kalen paga basu ko mo no.
It's important you understand what you're paying for when you buy insurance. So ask yourself when the last time you actually sat down with an insurance professional and reviewed your policy.
Ako ne arindo ka ne no na puwe da insurance pele da kanle ni ba ti nyama no ako ne na hiwe da insurance manu pele da ka wole ni ba ti nyama no ako ne me si no tet ko da do wala mara pu da pe ni ba te da lo ti lo se.
It really boils down to, you're paying good money to pay for insurance to protect you.
Mamnu ko ne ke no ni hiwe da se mo no di to do no ko we da do ta do ta de gile no wo.
Is it doing what you want it to?
Do ta da kani si ko ne do ta na gi baba no ko le ne edo ya mo no.
And I would just say one more time, if you do not understand your insurance policy, call your agent and ask them to review your policies with you.
ado nemit na peweda ne insurance dah itaklo lot sebau ne ye do hikueda le ko weda ne agent mono lo do awe kitet ko lota ba ka weda ne policy kagi.
So I'd just like to thank you for your time today on behalf of Shannon and I. If there's any questions, we'd be happy to answer them.
Tini nyai netra edo simlu weda do po hiweda akweya le o do tra mushene mono do awe kini petati kwa me osikone no awe te edo sisel
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us. This was very informative and really, really eye-opening as far as insurance goes. Thank you so much, Shannon and Gary. We appreciate your help with this.
edo
Our
simlu
pleasure.
Pero simlu wena le tra mu shen na tra Gary le awe te ta kloti pa ko lo no ta ta kloti pa ine do du tinya le po redo ma do awe do otawe da pe me kliti pa sikolo no.
So the center will be sharing this to our website under community education, these two presentations, and also likely on Facebook. And so I hope that works for you, Gary and Shannon as well.
Of
Awe
course.
da kai ne no pa video da kai ne pa ka share lo da le pa center pa ko mege do Facebook mege ne do no.
Okay, thank you, Gary. Thank you, Shannon. Have a great day.
Awe
Thank you as well.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Gary mo no tablo lo.
Tableau Padu.
Thank you, Sewa.
Thank you, Sewa. Okay, have a great day.